The sky hung low with thick, gray clouds, as if the heavens themselves were mourning. A cold wind swept across the cemetery, carrying with it the heavy silence of grief. Rows of tombstones stretched endlessly, but all eyes were fixed on the small white coffin resting at the edge of the open grave, a painfully tiny box draped with soft pink flowers. Standing near it, tugging violently against his leash, was Koda, a German shepherd police dog known for strength, discipline, and unwavering loyalty. But today, he was nothing like the composed K9 everyone knew. His fur bristled, his chest heaved, and his desperate, echoing barks shattered the stillness. Officers struggled to hold him back as he lunged repeatedly toward the coffin of the little girl he once protected. No one understood his strange, frantic behavior, until everything changed. Before continuing, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that reveal the hidden goodness in the world, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more meaningful stories to you. The funeral procession had begun with trembling steps and tear-streaked faces. The little girl, 8-year-old Emily, was beloved by everyone who knew her. Her soft laughter, golden curls, and innocent heart made her the kind of child who brought smiles effortlessly. She lived in a quiet neighborhood and walked to school daily, often with Koda and Officer James accompanying her during their patrols. Emily adored dogs, but Koda held a special place in her heart. Every morning she'd hug him, whispering secrets into his furry neck as if he understood every word. And in many ways, he did. But 2 weeks earlier, tragedy had struck. Emily had gone missing while walking home from the park. The entire community, officers, volunteers, neighbors, searched for her relentlessly. Koda had been at the forefront, sniffing tirelessly through forests, abandoned barns, and desolate roadsides. The search lasted 3 agonizing days until a child's backpack was found beside a shallow river. Hours later, her body was discovered. The loss broke the town's spirit. For Officer James, who had young daughters of his own, it felt like a personal failure. For Koda, it was something deeper, something no one yet understood. As the priest read the final prayer, Koda suddenly yanked forward so hard that the officer holding him stumbled. The dog's claws scraped the earth, and he let out a piercing howl that made several mourners gasp. His eyes locked onto the tiny coffin, and he barked again, loud, sharp, and filled with a strange urgency. Officer James tightened his grip, confused and alarmed. Koda had never acted this way, not even during the most intense missions. But no matter how hard they held him back, the dog refused to give up. It was as if he was trying to warn them, trying to say something. People exchanged uneasy glances. Some whispered that the dog was grieving. Others said animals could sense the presence of souls. But Officer James felt something else, a prickle at the back of his neck that told him this was more than sorrow. Koda wasn't mourning. He was communicating. Moments before the coffin was lowered, Koda let out an ear-splitting bark and lunged again. This time he pulled with such raw power that the leash slipped from the officer's hand. Gasps rose as Koda sprinted straight toward the coffin, teeth gripping the fabric near its base. Officers rushed to grab him, but he growled, not in aggression, but in protest, as if fighting for the truth itself. Then Officer James noticed something. Koda wasn't attacking the coffin. He was nudging it, pawing at it, whining in a tone James had only heard once before, the day Koda had alerted them to a kidnapped child trapped inside a locked shed. Koda only made that sound when someone was alive. A jolt of fear shot through James's body. The temperature around him seemed to drop further. He approached the coffin slowly, heart thundering. The other officers looked at him with confusion, but none dared to stop him. Koda's instincts had saved countless people before. What if? James laid a trembling hand on the coffin. His breath hitched. Something faint, something he couldn't explain, felt off. The coffin was warm. Not warm from the sun. Warm from within. The blood drained from his face. He turned sharply. Stop. Don't lower the coffin, he shouted. People froze, startled. Something's not right. The funeral director hesitated. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Emily's mother, pale and devastated, looked up in confusion and fear. Officer James didn't wait. He motioned for 2 officers to help him lift the coffin back onto flat ground. With shaking hands, he undid the latches. Every second felt like an eternity. Koda stood beside him, tail stiff, nose pressed to the opening, whining softly. James slowly lifted the lid. A collective gasp swept across the cemetery. Emily's chest moved. So faint. So quiet. So unbelievably real. Her tiny fingers twitched. Her lips parted just enough for a whisper of breath to escape. She was alive. For a moment, no one moved. Some thought their grief-crazed minds were tricking them. But then Emily's eyes fluttered weakly, focusing for a brief second on the blurry shapes above her. That was all it took. Chaos erupted. Emily's mother collapsed to her knees with a cry that echoed across the graves. Officers yelled for medical assistance. People rushed forward. Someone sobbed uncontrollably. But through all the noise, one sound dominated, Koda's soft, relieved whimper as he nudged his nose gently against the girl's hand. Paramedics arrived within minutes, lifting the fragile child with utmost care. Her skin was cold, her breathing shallow, her pulse barely detectable, but she was alive. They worked quickly, wrapping her in warm blankets and administering oxygen. As they transported her to the ambulance, her mother climbed in beside her, clutching her daughter's hand as if she'd never let go again. Before the doors closed, Emily's weak voice drifted out in a whisper only Koda seemed to truly hear. "Koda, you found me, again." The ambulance sped away. But the mystery remained. How had this happened? How had a child declared dead, medically examined and prepared for burial, been alive all along? The truth surfaced slowly, like a dark tide. Doctors revealed that Emily had fallen into a rare, profound hypothermic state when she collapsed near the river. Her body temperature had plummeted so dangerously low that her pulse became nearly undetectable. Her breathing slowed to a faint flutter that even trained professionals missed. Believing her gone, they never imagined she was trapped in a condition known as apparent death, where the body mimics death so closely that revival seems impossible. But Koda knew. The little girl's scent, her heartbeat, no matter how faint, was still there. And he sensed it. While the town processed the miracle, detectives uncovered an even darker secret. The reason Emily fell near the river wasn't an accident. Evidence at the scene pointed to foul play, footprints, disturbed soil, traces of fibers. Koda's behavior had saved Emily not just from being buried alive, but from her story being silenced forever. The investigation revealed she had been running from someone. Her injuries were not consistent with a simple fall. Someone had grabbed her. Someone had tried to harm her. And she had escaped, collapsing from exhaustion and cold. Koda, with his flawless tracking abilities, had been trying to follow the real trail all along, one that led not just to the river, but to the truth. And now, with Emily alive, there was hope she could eventually identify her attacker. Days passed. Emily remained in the hospital, recovering slowly. Her mother kept constant watch, whispering prayers of gratitude. Officers visited daily, including James, who felt forever changed by what he witnessed. But no visitor brought more joy to the room than Koda. The hospital staff made an exception for him. Each time he entered, Emily's eyes lit up just a little brighter. She'd lift her hand weakly, and Koda would place his head gently beneath it, letting her stroke his soft fur with slow, loving movements. It took time, but eventually Emily regained enough strength to speak longer sentences. Her voice was fragile but determined. She told them everything, how someone had approached her near the park, how she tried to run, how she slipped near the riverbank, how darkness swallowed her. The details built a clearer picture, and soon a suspect emerged, someone who had been lurking in the area for weeks. Thanks to Emily's testimony and Koda's relentless tracking, the individual was arrested. Justice was finally within reach. But what struck the officers the most wasn't just how Emily survived, but why. It was because of a dog's love. Koda was honored in a special ceremony weeks later. Officers, townsfolk, and families gathered to celebrate the courageous canine whose instincts defied death itself. Emily, now able to walk again, hugged Koda tightly as the crowd applauded. The chief presented Koda with a medal, but the real reward came from the little girl whose life he saved, twice. The town never forgot that day in the cemetery. The image of Koda barking desperately at the coffin remained etched in their memories forever, a reminder that sometimes the truest miracles come from the purest hearts. To this day, whenever someone tells the story of Emily and Koda, they say the same thing. Some guardians are sent from heaven. Others walk beside us on four paws.